Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and I am back with another Muggles Wizarding Adventures. This one is a 2 layout video because this first layout is super simple. You see that paper on the right? I have no idea where it came from. I thought it was Scrapbook Customs and I looked it up and I couldn't find it on their website, so it may be theirs and it's no longer available, or it might be Scrap Your Trip. But again, it's not on their website, but I'm going to use that paper as it is and embellish it. These 2 photos are of Eli knocking on the door of 12 Grimmauld Place, as well as a picture of Creature, the grumpy house elf who peeks out the window. This is a super simple layout. There's not much to it, but I really wanted to showcase that wand over on the left-hand side and the top part of this layout. So I did decide to mount both of these photos on some black cardstock, and then I'm going to poke a ton of holes. Every swirl, every line is going to have a hole poked through it, and I'm going to do some black stitching on it. I knew that that's what I wanted to do with this particular piece of paper because there's going to be a lot of stitching. There's not a whole lot else going on this layout. Once I poked all my holes, I decided to do my stitching offline, and I slow the video down here so that you can see all of those details. You see all of those black dots and printed stars on this paper. I'm going to embellish even that. I pulled out my black enamel dots and I found the smallest enamel dots that I had. And I'm going to add a black enamel dot to every single printed dot on the top of this layout. I really wanted that part of the layout to stand out. And because I'm putting so much detail into that section of the layout, I didn't feel like I needed a whole lot more on this layout. There really isn't much to these photos. It was just Eli knocking on the door. I then started to look through the rest of my black embellishments, and for some of my color boxes, I have 2 of them. One holds just round enamel dots, and then the other one holds all of my shapes, so stars or hearts, arrows, or anything else that's not a round shape. When I was going through this, I realized I don't have any black stars. I have that one star that I was able to pull out, and that is it. And I used it on this layout, and I have no other black stars. So I decided that one, I need to add that to my list of items that I need to pick up, but then also that I would add some tiny stacked stars to the layout wherever there were printed stars on the layout. So what I like to do is I will stack white stars. I stack them with 2 pieces of white cardstock and I keep them in these little containers. That way I have them available to me whenever I need stars on my layouts. Once I adhere them down directly on the layout where I want them, I will then cut out the top layer for whatever needs to be on that layout. For this particular layout, it's going to be black stars. But this gives me the opportunity of not having to cut out and stack tiny stars every single time I'm doing a layout. And it's a great way for me to sometimes be in my scrapbook room, but not necessarily create a layout. I'll come in my room and just die cut some tiny stars. So once I got all the stars down, I did decide that I needed to add a few more enamel dots over on the far left-hand side. I then pulled out some black scraps and I'm going to cut out a bunch of black stars. I knew that I would use several on this layout, but I also knew that I would probably use quite a bit throughout the next 10 layouts that I'm going to do. So I did go a little heavy on the amount of black stars. I do have this die linked below if you'd like to check it out. I picked it up at scrapbook.com. I actually ended up purchasing 2 of them because it does make it a little bit easier when I am stacking the stars to just go ahead and cut out 2 at a time. I do stack a lot of stars and it just was easy to have 2 of them. I did zoom in here on the video to show you my technique. Once I get all the stars down on the paper, I will just add some glue to several of the stars, and then I'm using this pickup tool that I also got from scrapbook.com to add the black stars to the stacked stars. I did slow the video down here and zoomed in so that you can see all of the detail. Sometimes I covered the stars up completely, and sometimes I turned them a little bit so that you could actually see the starburst on the paper itself, so it gave it a different look. I then pulled out my glossy accents. I decided to add even more embellishments to the top of this layout. I just added dots of glossy accent all around where there was no space at all. I had already added enamel dots to the printed black areas, so I was just adding it anywhere that I thought was a little bland. I am going to add the title of 12 Grimmauld Place. I pulled out these thickers, and once I get part of the title down, I realized that I do not have enough space. So I did have to move the title over so that I could add the word place at the end. I do have my T-square ruler out so I can make sure that these pieces are straight, but I do move around the letters quite a bit until I feel like they are centered underneath the photos. I'm also using my tweezers to help move these letters around. I decided that I would cut my journaling in just a very long strip. I'm really bad about cutting things straight. I thought that if I added a box around my journaling, that it would help when I was cutting it out. And spoiler alert, it didn't. I think that it is straight, but there's a lot more space at the top than there is at the bottom. I did decide to just add some foam adhesive to the back of my journaling, and my journaling says, Eli knocked on the door of number 12 Grimmauld Place, half expecting someone from the Order of Phoenix to answer. I also added some black stars to either side of my title. Now let's move on to the next layout. I pulled out a page map sketch from May of 2009. This time I'm going to be documenting some photos of Eli at the Three Broomsticks. I did decide to pull in this title piece. I found it online. I dropped it into Silhouette. I put a shadow behind it, and I'm going to use the print and cut features to cut it out. Of course, I have to use the broom paper on this layout since it is the Three Broomsticks. I also thought that this brick paper would work really well because this restaurant does have a rustic vibe to it. I decided for my background paper I was going to use this like cream shimmer paper, and I thought I would mount the photo of Eli on that paper as well before I added the pattern paper on top of it. For the print and cut features, I totally messed up because I thought it was going to be in one piece, and those letters are definitely not, but I do make it work. Some of the pieces were together, which made it pretty easy to get them on the layout. I also decided to look through my Kellybell Designs. I knew that there were some turkey leg options because I had done a turkey leg layout for Eli at Disney. And of course he is eating a turkey leg in this layout as well. So the two pieces that I pulled out says grilled to perfection, and then the other one is a circle and it says turkey leg, and it has an image of a turkey leg on it. So because I had the brown embellishments from Kellybell, as well as my title being black, I really thought that the black broomsticks as well as the bricks worked well together with my embellishments. I did use the Three Broomstick image to decide how large I wanted the broomstick paper to be. I wanted to make sure that the title fit completely on the broomstick paper. When I adhered it down to the paper, I did leave the left-hand side without adhesive, so that way I was able to tuck in this brick paper to the left of the layout. Once I got the brick paper down, I just pulled the broom paper up just a little bit so that I could tuck it underneath, and then I added some adhesive. This photo is just of Eli eating a turkey leg and drinking some pumpkin juice. He did make the comment that Disney's turkey leg was better. Just putting that out there. I decided on the placement of the photo of Eli, and then I went ahead and added the Three Broomstick title down. You can see that the word the and three are together because I had added the shadow behind it. But the rest of the letters, I had to kind of figure out where they went. Because I didn't realize that they were going to cut out, there was a little bit of an indent on that circle, so it was kind of easy to put the letters down. But when it came to those O's, I wasn't sure what was top or bottom. So I did pull out the mat and line them up on the mat to figure out which part of the O was the top. I then added the B and the R down to spell out the word broomstick. For the Kellybell embellishments, I really like to use these circle elements in some bottle caps. So I pulled out a silver bottle cap, and I decided that I would ink up the edges of that turkey leg before I added it to the bottle cap. I did put Eli's photo up on some fun foam just to give it some dimension next to that title, since that title is really large. And then right above the photo, I'm going to add that grilled to perfection. I did do my stitching offline, and I just put a black border around the edge. I did do some bulk journaling for a couple of the layouts. I'm not doing a whole lot of journaling on these layouts, just simply because I feel like there's not a whole lot to say. Eli's eating a turkey leg and he's drinking pumpkin juice. So my journaling says, every wizard needs fuel, and we feasted like Harry and his friends, with a turkey leg in hand and pumpkin juice to wash it down. There's not much else to say about the fact that the kid is eating a turkey leg and drinking some pumpkin juice. I did leave off the L in the word like, and one of the things that I really like about this particular font, it is very similar to my handwriting. So I can add letters to the journaling. If it's more than one letter, I would definitely reprint it, but a simple L is something that I would just add with a marker like I did here. I did stack the journaling up too high, just like I do with my tiny stars, and added it right below my title. Since Eli was drinking pumpkin juice, I thought adding a pumpkin to this layout was a perfect touch as well. And then I decided to add the turkey leg in the bottle cap on the bottom left. I also found a potion bottle that had some orange liquid in it that I thought maybe could look like pumpkin juice. So I did add that right next to the bottle cap. I also found a cauldron, which I thought was kind of perfect since we were eating, and maybe it's used for potions, but maybe it's also used for cooking. And I also found a black potion bottle, and I added that over on the right hand side with the title. I added a couple of lightning bolts, and then I'm going to pull out my tiny stars again and add tiny stars to each one of the clusters. That die does come with 3 size tiny stars, so that is perfect for adding tiny stars to your clusters. Once I got the white bases down, I went ahead and pulled out this pickup tool. One side has wax and the other side is a poker tool. It makes it super easy to pick up the tiny stars, add them to my layout, and then I use the pokey tool side to move them around until they fit perfectly. I also decided to pull out my Close to My Heart liquid glass, which is very similar to Glossy Accent. I'm just really trying to use up this bottle since it is super old, and I added a ton of it to the bottle cap. It does look like it adds a lot, but once it dries, it makes a perfect touch to that bottle cap. All right, guys, that is it for this video. Here are my final layouts. The first one is of Eli in front of 12 Grimmauld Drive with all of the stitching detail as well as that glossy accent. You can see all of those tiny stars, and the stitching is just chef's kiss. Then I have my final layout for the Three Broomsticks. You can see the detail that the liquid glass gives to that bottle cap after it's dried. And then I really love the picture of Eli and the way that he's looking at the camera as he is taking a huge bite out of that turkey leg. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.